We'll be making this cornice from start to finish using the open frame method. Why do we want to make our cornices light? Many different reasons. First of all, ease of manipulation in the workroom, ease of installation, and it's much less expensive to make a cornice this way. The wood that I used in this cornice costs under $7. I have cut my dustboard, which is this 1x3, at 69 inches. The reason I did that is because I have legs that I am going to put under my dustboard. Our boards are 3/4 of an inch. I have 2 legs, so this makes 1.5 inches. I have cut my bottom brace board that same 1.5 inches less because the legs are going to go on either side of that brace board. So that bottom brace board is cut at 67.5. 69 minus 67.5. I'll be using brace boards to help support that bottom brace and make the cornice more stable. And these I cut at 9 3/4 inches. The reason I did that, I have 3/4 of an inch here, 1.5 inches for my bottom brace board, and I needed to deduct that so that my vertical braces will fit in. Let's put this baby together. Nice and sturdy, and we have a cornice frame. Our first layer is the base layer for our cornice, and we want to make sure this is nice and taut, and so I'm going to use just regular lining. Every now and then I'll use leftover ugly fabric. No one is ever going to see it, and unless they take the cornice apart. So it's a nice way to get rid of ugly fabric. But today I'll use lining. I'll switch my staples from the 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch. I don't need huge staples for this. It's only one layer. And we have a nice tight base. Time for our second layer, which is cornice board batting. And Rolly sells cornice board batting. It's actually called that. And the reason that I like to use actual cornice board batting instead of regular batting or upholstery batting is that this is the perfect density. It's very easy to work with. It will hold its shape rather than with a very high loft batting. You're going to get some rippling. I roll this out on my table, and you can see this is way long. It was an offcut that I saved. I like to place the cornice along the edge, and then with my pencil, sometimes a magic marker, but usually a pencil, I'm going to mark the shape of my cornice. This comes in handy, especially if you have curves. Lift my cornice off. I'll save this little piece. It goes under my table because I may need just that much extra in the next cornice that I make. So come back on. And our batting is cut exactly to the size of our cornice. I'm using 1/4 inch staples to secure our batting to the cornice itself. Some people will spray glue. I'm too messy, and this holds just as well. It's also easier to get off if you make a mistake. I'm lifting up and inserting my staple in between the layers of the batting. The reason for that is I don't want a lump where my staple is. If I stapled on top, I would have a lump, and that would really show up, especially if we were using a lighter fabric like silk. I like to use interlining for my third layer. The reason for that is it gives me a very smooth surface for my face fabric. It's also very forgiving and easy to work with. This wasn't off cut. I had under my table. I do measure and label everything before I put it under the table, so I know what I have. I like to cover my sides if I have a piece long enough for the interlining, and staple to the 3/4 edge. The second edge I'm a little more particular with. I want to make sure that my batting is not going over the edges. So I'm going to feel that it's not, and this isn't going to quite reach. It's okay. I'll staple to this edge. It's going to be covered anyway. I'll do the top edge next. Again, I want to make sure I have a nice crisp edge, so I'm going to pull, making sure that my batting is not caught in the middle. And now our bottom edge. I'm feeling along the edge, making sure that my batting is not rolling over that edge. Again, I want a nice crisp edge. And I'm pulling up taut, but not so taut that I'm going to make ripples. As I was putting staples in, I noticed two went in at a little bit of an angle. I'm gonna just whack them right down. And we have a nice smooth cornice. Now it's time for the pretty part. I'm making sure that I don't have any fuzzies. I cut my face fabric at 18. I want to have enough to play with. And also, I had planned on centering my motif. I want to make sure I like it there once I get it on the cornice. I did have to piece my fabric. When you seam fabric, you want to make sure that your seams are the same distance from each edge, if possible. Sometimes, depending on how much fabric you have and the motif, they won't be perfectly aligned, but if it's a busy fabric, it doesn't matter. In this case, I want to make sure that everything is going to be lined up. And so I'll measure. This is at 12.5. This is at 9. So I know that I have to go that way, about 1.5 inches. I could measure the middle and center it that way, too much math for me. 1/4 of an inch. And we are spot on at 11 inches from the sides. I want to make sure that my motif is centered vertically. I'll use pins to hold everything in place. Next is my top edge. I know everything is even. I won't go all the way to the edge. I'm going to finish that off after. Starting in the middle and working my way to each side. I think I'll staple on this 3/4 edge. Time to finish the back. I use tack strip and I'm going to start from the bottom up. If our cornice was curved or if it was stepped, I would start from the top down. Cut to the size that I need. Approximately. I have an offcut of black outlining. It's important that you use black outlining because if you don't, you're going to get the shadows of our brace boards. I'm switching to 3/8 inch staples because our cardboard tack strip is going to add some bulk and I want to make sure that my staples hold. I'm going to place the tack strip right up against the top of that bottom brace board, right into the corner. And this I am going to put my staples in at a slight angle. I'm folding over the edges that I left and pulling our lining up. Now remember, our brace boards take up 3/4 of an inch of our projection. So instead of stapling right down into the bottom, I'm going to staple up against my brace board. And now I'm going to try to keep that same distance across as I staple. Remember, if it's bulky, cut it off. Don't need that. Now I don't want any light gaps. I strategically place staples where no one can see. Good enough. And we're done. Now I need to be quiet, baby. I need to put you on silent. I know. You're a good boy. You are a good boy, and this is something so unusual in our workroom. I know, baby. Dear, you're okay. You are. You're gonna be okay.